Yes. Okay. So after a short break, we are back to ask more questions. I'm going to start with, what does being non-binary mean to you?
Sorry.
I was just going to say, because everyone's different,
Yeah. I'm gonna shut this door properly. Simultaneously everything and not much.
right?
It's my gender, it's who I am. But then so obviously that's important to me because it makes up who I am. But then also like it's also just my gender and who I am, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
Like obviously it is important to me and my um identity means a lot to me. Um but it's not everything. But I guess you could argue that um a lot of the experiences I've had that are really important to me are this one bit of hair is annoying me are like a direct result of my gender.
Can you give us an
And
example?
yeah,
Go for it.
yes. So like I was always going to do trans conceptualizations of family as my master's thesis because I did LGBT conceptualizations of family as my final year dissertation, and it felt like a reasonable follow-on point.
Mhm.
However,
Ooh.
my current ideas around PhD are looking specifically into non-binary people, um, and I think that that is probably influenced by the fact that I am non-binary. I think I've been in talks with a non-binary lecturer at my uni, and I think they took partially an interest in me because I'm non-binary as well. So they saw like, like this mutual ground, I guess. I think also my research is incredibly important to me. It's, my life's work. And I got the results that I got because of who I am. I think that people would have spoken to me differently had I not been um if I had been, a 50-year-old cis man, they would have spoken to me very differently to how they did being a, early 20s non-binary person. So I think that my gender has influence on certain aspects of my life and it has minimal influence on other aspects of my life. It hasn't really impacted my relationships with people because I tend not to uh, form relationships with people who are assholes. Can I say assholes? I'm sorry.
It's fine. I'll keep that one in.
Who are buttholes.
Good. Good recovery.
Thank you. I try to foster relationships with people who actually care about me, and I don't think my gender should have any influence on whether or not people care about me. So yeah, I think it means a lot to me, but also it also doesn't impact other things that are important. It's not everything.
I feel like what you just said, latching onto that, I feel like whether you're non-binary or you're trans or you're bi or you're gay, that shouldn't matter to somebody when you make like a friendship or well, maybe a relationship if it's like gonna develop into something, but like a friendship, that shouldn't matter. It should just be like normalized and you're non-binary, that's cool, let's be friends.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it had absolutely, I am in a long-term relationship that spanned from before I was non-binary or before I realized it or whatever. And it has had borderline no impact on my relationship whatsoever. Um, because my partner loves me for me and that hasn't changed at all.
I like
Yeah, no,
that.
I'm
Very
sorry, that
happy
was
to
really
see.
lame.
No, it's fine.
I'm also not going to sit here and pretend that if that had been an issue, then that would necessarily have made him a bad person. He is, of his own admission, a straight man, and I am no longer a woman. So if that had been too much of an issue, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad person. It's just that in this case, it didn't have that much of an influence because he's not that attached to his gender and sexuality.
Nice. I think more people need to be like your partner.
He's a good boy.
He is a very good boy. Moving on, you're non-binary, but
Mhm.
I hate to be that person, and I'm not trying to be a butthole by saying this, but some people would argue that you have a very feminine name, and I was wondering how your name goes with your gender.
This is a dilemma that I have.
Okay, let's hear it.
I forgot I was going to talk about this. I do have a feminine name. And I've considered changing my name. But the main reason I haven't is for two reasons. I like my name. When I was a kid, I hated my name. Because no one could spell it. And that is an infuriating existence. In fact, still no one can spell it, and it's still currently messing things up for me. I have not been getting emails from my workplace because they've spelled my name wrong. So, but I have come to appreciate my name. I like what it represents. Is the I like being able to have my little actually thing, because a lot of people say that it means the sun, which it technically does, because that's the common conception. And what does anything mean if not the common understanding of words? But Phoebe was the Greek titan of oracular intellect and seeing the future through the oracle. So it means oracle, naturally.
Nice.
It's been skewed by the fact that Phoebus was a epithet of Apollo, the sun god, but he was also the god of oracles. And then I think Phoebus was also a Roman titan, but that's because they were dumb and got confused by Apollo's epithet. I have decided that I am smarter than the entirety of the Romans.
You probably are.
And also, I feel like if and when I discover a name that is more gender neutral, it will feel right. I will think of it, and it will make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And it will feel like some universal truth. And I haven't found it yet.
I'm kind of the same, because I remember when I chose Vicky, even now it still feels weird when some people say it, and my mother doesn't address me as it because that's a feeling that I don't want to experience yet. Because some people saying it feels good, other people it feels bad. And my mother is my mother, but I remember when I first chose this name, it didn't feel right, and then as I've kind of grown into who I am, it started to feel right. And I was saying to myself a couple of years ago that if another name comes along that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, then I'll probably change it. But I know that personally, nothing has come along yet, and it probably never will. But I do relate to the whole.
I think I also have an issue that because of the way I look and the way I am perceived, any name I pick, even if I picked a gender neutral name, would be seen as a feminine name. Even if I went by Alex, which is one of the most stereotypically gender neutral names there is, I would be seen as having a girl's name because I am a girl. I think the only way I could truly escape that is if I went full stupid non-binary name and was called Sock.
Sock. Okay, hello, Sock.
Because I've toyed with the idea of Laurel,
Okay.
like the plant, and a couple of my like online names of that, so that I can't be found by people who don't want finding me. And although maybe I have just ruined that by saying that. But again, it's one of those things that I know that if I gave it at Starbucks, they'd probably just assume I said Lauren. And I don't, Lauren isn't my name at all. And I've always had this kind of feeling, and this is again me just being a big book nerd.
Go on.
That names have power.
Oh yeah.
And I've been reading a book series recently that has a lot of focus on like true names, and there are the names that people call you and your true name. I certainly haven't figured out what my true name is yet. Also changing my name would be a big hassle.
Yeah.
And for something that I'm not 100% set on, I don't know if I can be bothered. And also I will sit down and tell myself every now and then that, well, actually Phoebe was a deity and therefore doesn't have a gender, so it is a gender neutral name actually, and if you're going to assign a gender to my name, that's your problem.
I just think, I was going to say that with a lot of things that we've spoken about, I think it's a need to separate like names and clothes from gender.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world my name wouldn't be a gendered name.
Yeah,
because although that said, I'm also aware of, I read a Reddit thread the other day of, I don't go on Reddit often, but I did see this one of a guy who was having some trouble because his parents had named him what they said was a gender neutral name, but he felt was a feminine name and was getting relentlessly bullied for it and wanted to change his name, and it turned out that his name was Sabrina.
Okay.
And I think that was kind of unfair on the parents' end there. But also I think that people should be able to change their name for whatever reason they want, whether you're normal or cis.
Whether you're normal or cis, yes. I'm feeling that from you. Okay. Thank you for explaining that, and I hope it comes across as a butthole. Next question. As a non-binary person, I'm sure you've heard plenty of myths, and I would like to know if there are any that you want to debunk for the viewers.
Non-binary is not woman light. That is a stereotype. A lot of people think that only skinny white AFAB people are non-binary. That's not how that works. Anyone can be non-binary, and you certainly don't have to look a certain way to be non-binary, because the problem is if we sit there and say that you have to dress a certain way to be a certain gender, then we're no better than the transphobes.
Yeah.
And I genuinely mean that, not like in the centrist way that sits there and says that, people that want like healthcare as a basic human right are the same as like Nazis and stuff. Genuinely, if we're going to gatekeep people's gender identity based on how they dress, then you're a butthole. And you're no better than transphobes.
I was going to say to you earlier that one thing I've been seeing a lot on TikTok, because I too am that person, people have been saying how there's like this stereotype that every non-binary person is a vagina owning person, and I think it's like the fetishization of non-binary people, and by this point it just feels like everything is getting fetishized, and I don't like it.
I think as well it's because it's seen as, it is more socially acceptable for women to be gender non-conforming and to do masculine things, because masculine things are seen as being better. So therefore, if you were to, by women being gender non-conforming and doing masculine things, they are raising themselves up to the goodness of masculinity, whereas men are dragging themselves down to the rubbishness of femininity by this is going to get cut and
It's
people are going to be posting being like, this person's a massive like misogynist. And but it's like so for example, me and my boyfriend are roughly the same clothing size.
Okay.
If I went out wearing a jumper of his and said and someone said, oh, I like your jumper, and I went, oh, thanks, it's my boyfriend, so they'd go, oh, it's so cute that he lets you like wear his clothes. And but if he went out and someone wearing a jumper of mine and someone said, oh, I love your jumper, and he said, oh, thanks, it's my girlfriend, because we do use the word girlfriend because we don't really like any of the other ones other than partner. Mm-hmm. People would be like, what's wrong with you? You know, because it's cute for someone to take their boyfriend's clothes, but it's weird for a boy to do feminine things.
You see, I don't understand that, because I think it's cute, but I'm not a cis white man in their 40s, so
yeah, we're normal.
Yeah, we are normal.
And we have normal opinions about things.
We do. We see them.
And I am now using normal as in correct. Because your opinions can't be correct.
Are there any other myths you want to debunk quickly?
Let fat people and people of color be non-binary. It's not just for white skinny people.
Yeah.
If your inclusion isn't actually if your inclusion is exclusive, it's not inclusive. I don't know how to tell you that. Also, this isn't exclusively non-binary, but just trans in general. Inclusive language by definition cannot be exclusive. You are not excluding anyone by using inclusive language. And I think that so this is an important thing that has come out of my research, this idea that how we use language needs to change.
Yeah.
How we talk about family needs to change. And I think my main point in that, I don't personally care if you as an individual, when you say family, just mean the people that you are biologically and legally related to. I don't care. What I do care about is that in the law, family is an inclusive term. And I care about that in the law and in healthcare things and in organizational papers and whatever, that things like pregnant people is used and people who menstruate is used rather than women. Yeah. Because there are trans men who do not get notified for their smear tests because they are men, and it's only for women, but they need those smear tests because they still have a uterus and a cervix.
I'm the same. I'm trying to rewire and undo my brain. So rather than saying like girls or boys in relation to stuff like that, I'm like, oh, a vagina having person or a menstruating person.
And I think in fairness, it's generally just more accurate because there are certain things that only affect people who menstruate and do not affect, people under the age of 10 and don't affect people over the age of 60 with a couple, a bit of leeway there, but and only affect people whilst they are menstruating and stuff, so it's just a more accurate term, but it is not exclusive. It's not excluding anyone because it literally cannot be. Women are people.
Women are people. And I can also see an angry white man watching this and being like, oh my God, you two are so absurd. But I feel like this is like the whole postmodern thing coming back. We just need to undo and redo everything to be more inclusive to everyone.
I literally have a degree in this. They can't tell me I'm wrong.
That is very true. Just wave it in their faces. As a non-binary person, do you have any advice for anybody who's hopefully watching this, being like, I don't know if I am or I want to be?
Yes. I once heard this said, and it changed my life.
Oh,
Faking something is a conscious choice. If you are worried that you are faking, pretty high chance you are not. Because people who are faking things are making a conscious decision to fake it. So if you go, oh, I don't know if I'm non-binary or if I'm just faking it for attention, you're probably not, because you would know if you were. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think, honestly, so obviously you can't choose your gender or your sexuality or anything like that, but you can 100% choose your label.
mm-hmm.
And you can choose the label that makes you the most comfortable. And if at some point in your life that label no longer makes you the most comfortable, then you can just change it. And anyone who tells you they can't is, one, a butthole, and two, objectively wrong. Of course you can. They're just words.
They are just words.
Words only have the meanings that we prescribe to them.
Literally.
Your gender and your sexuality are innate and inherent, but the words you use to describe them are completely made up.
And something else that I've been seeing and trying to champion a lot lately is it's never too late to like come out.
Absolutely not. Actually, a fun fact
Go on.
as well, which I think might bring some comfort to people. Research shows that this is in children,
mm-hmm.
And by children I mean like preteen, who socially transitioned, obviously, because that's all that children can do, despite what the media will try to tell you. No one's giving children surgery. At most, they go on puberty blockers, which have minimal side effects. But even the children that detransitioned and decided that they were wrong, which was not very many, by the way, I want to point that out, did not describe that as a traumatic experience. If you are in an accepting environment, generally they are accepting. And that's kind of that. If they accepted you coming out, they'll accept you coming out again as something different for the most part. So you shouldn't feel bad about changing labels, because and also, if anyone does give you flack for that, then they're a butthole.
Yeah.
And you don't need that kind of negativity in your life.
I know that this can be difficult because like family and everything, but there will come a point where you can escape your family and you can escape your friends. And yeah, it's going to be horrible to like force yourself to live through it. But once you get to that point where if your family is being incredibly mean to you and dragging you down, there will come a point when you fight to get to it where you can just drop them and go find better people.
Absolutely.
After life.
My mum always said that if the benefit you get from it is more than the downsides, then it is fun.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as the downsides start being worse than like the enjoyment that you get out of it, it's time to stop. That doesn't count for things like drugs.
I was thinking that.
Drugs are dangerous.
Drugs are dangerous. Don't do drugs, kids.
But yeah, if the love and support you get from your family in other areas of your life outweighs not having that love and support around your gender, then that is fine. If you think that it is fine, if it does not outweigh that, then you are allowed to say, yeah, no, this isn't working for me anymore.
And it's like we've said before, it's a personal thing. It's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like, measure it by your own internal feelings rather
yeah
than...
And I don't want to, I feel like what I said sounded slightly dismissive. It's not going to be easy, obviously. I mean, it might be easy for some people. But it's just that kind of, if something is just ruining your life, just stop doing it.
Yeah.
Pretty good life philosophy.
Yeah, I was thinking that
if you can.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, I'm not suggesting that you can just like choose to stop being depressed or something. Because that probably is ruining your life, but like,
I was literally just sitting here thinking that you've said some incredible stuff, and I really hope that people watch this and like just take at least one thing away, and yeah, just know that they're not alone, because that's what I aim to do.
Also, I want to make another point of like, and I guess this is for all the transphobes out there, but also I think slightly for the people that worry that they're making their identity up for attention. An increase in the amount of people coming out as trans is not the same as an increase in trans people. Trans people have always existed. We just have more words for them now. Also, there is a fun graph of there is a apparent increase in the number of people who are left-handed, because back in the olden days we used to force children to write with their right hand until they became right-handed, and then we stopped doing that. So people started being left-handed again. And we are seeing a similar thing with trans people. Identity concealment is a very common coping mechanism. And when you don't have to cope anymore and you are allowed to come out and you will be accepted, then you don't have to conceal your identity, and it will lead to what looks like an increase in prevalence, but it's actually just an increase in people feeling safe.
For the past like 5 years, I guess, I've seen this massive increase in trans people and have realized that I too am in fact a trans people. And there was a point where I was like, why are there so many more trans people just coming out of the woodworks, and like gay people as well? Because it feels like there was a point where it felt like everyone was gay and everyone was trans, and now I've come to love and accept that. But what you've just said has made me realize that we're just getting more like inclusive and accepting and honest about ourselves.
Also, solid chance that it's just because you've started surrounding yourself with people that are like you.
And I would rather be around gay and trans people than anyone else.
Absolutely. Trans trenders are not a thing. Rapid onset gender dysphoria, it's not a thing. I'm a scientist, trust me.
Even if you weren't, I would still trust you.
Oh, also another thing about the increase in prevalence is about how we ask people about their gender.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask people, are you trans? Yes, no. You actually tend to get a much lower response. Or like, actually more accurately, if you say, what is your gender? Male, female, trans woman, trans man, other, then you tend to get people sticking to male and female. You get about 1% response rate of people being trans. If you ask people, what is your gender? Is this the gender you're assigned at birth? We're looking at more like 3% of the population identify as trans.
Okay.
And about 35 to 40% of trans people identify as non-binary, according to some research. Oh, that is another thought as well, is non-binary is an umbrella term as well as a distinct label for the most part. I found anyway that that's how most people use it. I think a lot of people could argue that I might also identify as agender or gender fluid, perhaps. But that hurts my brain too much to consider. So I'm just going to go with non-binary.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. I love and accept you as you are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Play around with your labels. Do what makes you feel happy. Don't let other people tell you what to do.
Be gay, do crime.
Be gay, do crime. If you are concerned you are faking it, you are probably not.
Okay, good. I like that you've rounded that off. Thank you.
And actually, even if you are faking it, not faking it, but even if you do identify as a gender or a sexuality and then turn around a couple years down the line and go, actually, no, I am cishet, that's fine. You're allowed to do that. What you have done then is unlocked cis plus. I think that everybody should sit down and have a think about their gender, because even if you come out and go, yep, no, my gender's correct, then you've just unlocked like gender DLC. And now you know more about yourself and are more comfortable in your place in the world. And also, even if it's just meh, I don't care, but changing my label seems hard, that's also acceptable. Do what makes you happy and do what makes you comfortable. And sometimes it's good to sit around and do nothing except contemplate your existence. Unless that makes you sad, don't do that then.
I'm trying to recover from gender plus.
Thank you. Sorry, I was very happy with that one.
That was very good. But yeah, thank you so much. Everything you've said is always amazing, always insightful. Thank you for guesting, the first guest. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's okay. Maybe when more stuff happens in the world, we can get you back on and we can talk more.
Yeah, maybe we could do it in person.
That would be even better.
Probably not. I live 200 miles away.
We can work something out. But yes.
But yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I hope I helped.
I hope that you help as well, but hopefully you do. So thank you.
At the very least, I hope that people thought my cat ears were cool.
I think your cat ears are cool.
No, actually, the swords are more important to me. Comment below that my swords are cool.
Comment below that the swords are cool. But yes, thank you.
Thank you.